Welcome back to Writing Music with a Plan. I recorded the first 7 episodes of this series before I went on tour, and so I've been reading a lot of your feedback and thinking about what you've been saying, but not able to actually implement any of it in my piece because everything was already done for the videos I've released so far. So now I'm in this position where I'm going to take another crack at working on this piece and try to get it closer to something I like. But I've got all these different complaints and critiques and everything in my head from the YouTube comments, and they've been helpful in a way because when you hear a criticism, if something about it is true, you kind of feel this gut instinct of like, that thing, yeah. And so the thing is that until this piece of music is actually done, it's going to mostly sound like crap. And that's kind of the nature of the composition process. But normally you don't have like thousands of people watching you do it. So when you're sounding like crap, you're your own critic and you're dealing with that. But, I'm hearing everybody's perspective, and I actually appreciate the perspective because it's a very interesting experience. And as I'm scrolling here through the piece, I'm thinking through, and one of the things that I think has been throwing this piece off and is, still needs to be fixed is actually in its focus and in how quickly the core melodic and harmonic material enter the picture. In other words, we kind of just jump right in, and from right from the get-go, we're playing the melody that I wrote for the A section. It's like pretty much appearing right away. And then and also the very first thing that happens, this is the latest spot we've had that we've been working on. The first thing that happens is we hear the chords spelled out. Now you'll notice things look a little different. That's because I've been playing around with some concepts, and I'll get to that in a second. But the very first thing that happens in this intro here is we actually start spelling out some of the harmony, and the next thing you know, we've got the melody, and we've got the full harmony and the full melody, and everything's just on the table. And this makes it so that the melody gets boring fast, and it also makes it so that each repetition of the melody doesn't really reveal much or take you anywhere. It's just kind of a repetition. And so what I decided to do was take a break from writing while recording myself just for a few hours so that I could sort of recalibrate, get my positivity back, and also just sort of like try a few things. And one of the experiments I did was to actually take the original melody and harmony that we were working with and make it twice as long. So just to recap, if I go back, sorry I'm scrolling back and forth so much, but if I go back to what we originally had, we have these two tracks, the flute and piano, which sort of spelled things out, and we have this melody. Ba 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 na 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 na. You've probably, if you've been following the series, heard that melody maybe 10 trillion times, literally. Just so many times, and it's probably in your head, and these chords are probably in your head too. And so what I did was I made it last twice as long. So I'll show you in a second. But now instead of it being 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, instead of that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna go now to where I wrote it out in the document. I hope you're not too dizzy yet. So here I wrote the melody out on the violin here, and it's now at double length, so it's an augmentation where all my half notes become whole notes. And so on. Now that's puts me in a position where I need to actually take the harmony and make that twice as slow as well. And so what I did was I took all the chords that we were working with and I scored them in the strings here, and each chord is now twice its length. So I'm going to bring in those chords and you can hear. And in the strings where you have these chords, I'm not just doing do-da, 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 like I have each note of the chords being played by the strings but in different groupings. So the viola has 3-note phrases of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then the violin here, violin 2, is going high, high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, playing chord tones high, low. And then the cello is going low, high, low, high, high. So what we end up with is this interesting counterpoint in the rhythms and the shapes of the strings that are playing the chords in the first place. So if I were to go that incredible length with everything moving in the same direction at the same rate, instead of the cello going low-high, the violin going high-low, and the viola going in sets of 3, it would probably get pretty boring. But this holds for a while. It's pretty interesting. You can hear the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 in the viola adding a lot of motion, and it also plays over the bar line in a cool way. See, if I do everything in 2s, it lines up 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Whereas if I do the 3s, if I do each group of 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, now the middle of this 1, 2, 3 ends up skipping over the bar line here, and the phrase continues now on the and of 1. And then it ends abruptly and has to reset. And that's a nice dynamic that's, I think, moving the chords along here. And so I found that to be a lot more interesting than the piano intro we were doing before. And so what I decided to do was have that kind of texture happening with neutral harmony, or just harmony that drones on one chord, and then put the melody, or a very simplified variation of the melody, over that in the cello. So we end up with this intro that sounds like this. There's the 3, the cello. So that has a sort of melancholy to it, but it's also cold and removed. It's not like super tearful sadness. It just kind of maybe a little bit, it's like a depressed, kind of understated texture. And that's really different than what we were getting up till now in this piece. And I like how that kind of throws an emotional element in that we didn't have before. And so finally, we get to this point after the long sort of neutral stuff where the cello persists here, but I'm going to add a color in the piano and crotales that adds a touch of hope, maybe. And so let's hear that. Okay, here we go. notice that dissonant line here. To me, it just works so well. It's so interesting. It's something I want to bring back later. So we have these cold chords with the cello melody. We're going to have these violins and viola play quiet enough that the cello melody cuts through. But having a high melody on cello is going to have a certain amount of built-in kind of tension to it, because you're taking a fat string and playing really high notes with it. And so this whole thing creates a wintry sort of feel, which is so different from the happy Zelda world we had before. I mean, this would be another aspect of the incredible depth of Zelda here. This would be part of the sad Zelda world, which is a equally important dynamic in that aesthetic. But I'm not necessarily going for the Zelda vibe here. It's just kind of happening. So then, after a while, you'll notice here the cello sort of abruptly stops itself from doing the full melody that you're used to at this point. And it joins in with creating the harmony. And now, finally, we've got the violin playing the melody that you're used to with the harmony that you're used to, except it's still at half speed. It's still slowed down quite a bit. And that sounds like this. And that effect ends up being, I think, it ends up taking more advantage of the material that we laid out in our form in the first place. We had all those nice chords. We have that nice melody. If we just play the chords and play the melody, we've basically blown our load in the first, moment. We don't get the opportunity to stretch the thing. But now we've kind of stretched it out a lot. So here's the whole sequence that I added today. And that's about as far as I got. And you can tell that the whole thing feels so different, but I just like it a lot better now. I still don't plan on throwing out the A section that we've been building so far, the version that you saw me kind of finish in the last video. I'm going to probably use it at some point, but I already took bits of it and throw it in here, as you probably noticed. I know everyone loves those crotales, so they're back. So we've got this chunk that I cut right out of the A section that we've been working on previously. I'll just go back to the A section and you can kind of take a look at it with this new perspective. Just sort of say, I'll show you what I thought was wrong with it, and you can kind of contrast with what I just showed you. So I was doing a little bit of experimentation here, but it all ended up being kind of like duty. So I'm just going to erase it for now. Let's take this stuff out here. Right. And then I put these down an octave. I'll put those back up. Okay. And this thing go bye-bye. Okay, so yeah, this is the intro we were dealing with before. So right now, already we've got harmony that moves and kind of reveals the chord progression. And now we're forced to face that harmony again without enough of a difference. Okay, that's nice. Entering of a new instrument's exciting. And I'll just pause here to say, how much of a payoff is there when the melody happens again now? I'm going to tell you what I think. It's not a payoff at all. It just feels a little flat. However, I really like the second half of that. So we've got, I think, a better beginning now with the slowed down half-speed thingy that I just went over. But we've got some good moments here, some promising stuff from all the effort we've done so far. So none of this goes to the trash bin. It just stays there, and I'm going to just start working on the piece from this new whole sequence here for future episodes and whatnot. And then we'll see if that stuff fits when we return to the A section again. And when you're writing a piece of music and you feel stuck, it's good to just kind of leave everything you've done where it is, add some bars to the end, and see if you can start something up that kind of resembles what you've been doing, but maybe has a new angle on it. In this case, making everything half speed was a really good starting idea. It gave me a new kind of fresh feeling with everything, and it was just what I needed. So now my hope is that this will be a more inspiring A section, which will lead me to a really focused B section. So I just wanted to show you what I was doing today, and in future episodes I'll get back to writing while talking about it instead of just showing you what I did while I was by myself. But this way I could get a little bit of a refresher and get myself back into the music. I appreciate all the comments, positive and negative. They're very valuable to me. They're good perspective, and I'm learning as we go too. So thanks for sticking along, and I hope this was interesting and useful to you. See you next time.